Some good news for a change.
Well, a big ruling tonight from a New York State appeals court about a New York City law that would have let non-citizens vote in local elections.
All right, the court has now ruled that law unconstitutional. Fox 5's Stephanie Bertini live in the newsroom with more tonight. Stephanie.
The law is very controversial, and it has been ever since it was approved by City Council several years back. The controversial local law, which was approved by the New York City Council in 2021, was meant to allow lawful permanent residents and persons authorized to work in the United States in New York City to participate in municipal elections. A group of Republican lawmakers sued to prevent it from taking effect. Today, the New York State Supreme Court Second Appellate Division ruled against it.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. Now, I can absolutely appreciate that individuals who have legally migrated to our country, became a U.S. resident, and are productive, hardworking members of our society desire to have input on who will represent them and their interests. I totally understand that. However, the right to vote is exclusive to citizens of the United States, not its residents. And no city or state council should be able to supersede the Constitution, plain and simple. Because when this occurs, the lines become blurred. And then they're crossed. And that's unacceptable. If you're already a legal permanent resident of the United States, I suggest you complete the naturalization process. I know that this can be difficult and somewhat pricey, right? But there are agencies that will help you and provide guidance and assistance through the entire process. Because, at the end of the day, isn't that the reason you migrated here in the first place? To reap the benefits of what the greatest country in the world has to offer? Do your due diligence. You're already a permanent resident. Complete the process. Become a U.S. citizen. That's it.
New York City Council member Joanna Riola is celebrating what she calls a win.
I was against it from the start because the Constitution of this state clearly states that any voting, the right of voting, is for American citizens.
As I mentioned earlier, the right to vote is exclusively for U.S. citizens on all levels too, federal, state, and local elections. Why are the city and state committees attempting to circumvent or supersede even the Constitution of the United States? Furthermore, why does it appear as though we're seeing this happening way too often, especially here in New York? Let's not forget about the quarantine and isolation regulation. That regulation violates the Constitution in every conceivable way. Every conceivable way that you can imagine. But they try to circumvent the Constitution because it's a local law.
The executive director of the New York Immigration Coalition quoted saying, "Immigrant New Yorkers deserve a say in how their local government functions and spends their tax money, and we remain committed to ensuring the expansion of voting rights."
What you remain committed to is the violation of our governing document. That's what you're committed to. By expanding voting rights, they really mean creating legal loopholes to try and strengthen a particular voter bloc. That's what they mean. Translation, just in case.
The city law department says it's evaluating its next steps. There could be an appeal. Susan Lerner from government watchdog organization Common Cause New York says the legal fight probably isn't over and thinks it could go either way.
Originally, the Staten Island Supreme Court said, nope, the state constitution says only citizens can vote. That means citizens of the United States. The city and the organizations that intervened argued, wait a second, it doesn't say citizens of the United States. It's up to New York City to decide who its eligible citizens are.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The U.S. Constitution is the fundamental governing document of the land. The state of New York is a member of the Union, correct? The state's constitution cannot supersede it. Let me give you an example of why they do this, right? They use these legal loopholes to circumvent the Second Amendment all the time here in New York, to infringe upon our rights to bear arms. Someone show me where in the Bill of Rights it states you have the right to bear arms unless you live in the inner city. You can't find it because it doesn't exist. It isn't there. However, it does say this right shall not be infringed, but they do it with zero regard anyway. And nothing happens. No repercussions for this. This is how they blur the lines. This is what they do. And it really needs to come to an end ASAP.
Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella, the first named in the lawsuit against the city, issued this statement after today's ruling. Fortunately, common sense prevails in New York. Only citizens can vote in our local elections. It is simply irresponsible and nonsensical to extend this right to non-citizens.
Agreed. And don't be fooled either. These amendments, for some reason, never seem to work out as intended when they're implemented into law. Anyway. Now, let's enjoy some of the shenanigans that occurred over at the House, although it did yield some excellent results. I told you guys this is going to be the good news for a change day.
Chaos at the state capitol. The House of Representatives approved several high-profile and controversial bills, and it all led to Nashville lawmaker Justin Jones being ruled out of order and silenced on the House floor after he compared House Republicans to the neo-Nazi protesters who were at the state capitol earlier this month.
Neo-Nazis? Are you sure they weren't talking about Ukraine again? Any hoot. Let's get back to it.
It'll be no wonder when the next neo-Nazi march will come. Some may argue that this is a neo-Nazi rally happening every time we convene in this body. But what we have to call attention to,
There's objection.
Mr. Speaker, I object to the vile things that were coming out of the representative's mouth. He literally disparaged the entire body, and the entire body, both parties.
Did you guys hear that? Some would argue this is a Nazi rally going on right here in this body. Well, I would argue that Justin Jones must be referring to himself, as he's the only one creating racial tension, trying to sow divisiveness right here, making a spectacle of himself. Why has this become the go-to play for the blue side of the aisle? I don't get it. When in doubt, racism spout. Well, he definitely has a future over at MSNBC. They love hiring racists over at that network. They love it. But yet, Democrats are the party of loving and caring and sharing, like the Care Bears and the rainbows. Talking about rainbows.
Here's a closer look now at some of the bills that passed the House tonight. One of them would ban pride flags in school classrooms, as well as Black Lives Matter flags and other, quote, political flags. But the bill still allows for historical flags, including the Confederate flag.
Man, that's wonderful. I'm so glad this was passed. The Department of Education's faculty and staff members' ideals do not belong in a classroom setting, plain and simple. You're there to guide, educate, and assure the safety of our children, not to radicalize and indoctrinate them with your ideals, not for you to instill your personal beliefs onto them. And you're absolutely not there to have inappropriate discussions about sexuality, sexual orientation, preferences, and so on and so forth. But Knoxx, what about the Confederate flag? What about it? If a history lesson is taking place and the Confederate flag is shown, so be it. It's a part of our history. We went through some unpleasant times throughout our history. I don't recall ever seeing the Confederate flag flying, being hung in the classroom. Not at all. Not even when I was in school or when I go to parent-teacher conferences. The only flag that should be on display in the classroom is the flag of the United States of America. So the children can start their day by pledging allegiance to the flag, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And another bill that passed would ban any representative who is expelled for disorderly conduct from being reappointed to their seat. This would impact cases like Justin Jones, Justin Pearson's last year after they were expelled for their role in gun control protests.
You get what you get with this one, you know? I guess they just wanted to put something in place for when they don't like one another's theatrics. They could go ahead and give one another the boot. These parties are freaking funny, man.
And over in the Senate, lawmakers passed a bill to overhaul protocol for fire alarms in schools. Schools will now have to make sure the fire alarm is going off for an actual fire before they evacuate the building. So mass shooters won't be able to pull the alarm and then target the kids who are evacuating. Now that bill has already passed the House, so now it heads to the governor's desk for his approval.
In theory, this sounds like a good thing, but in practice, this could yield some pretty catastrophic results. Heaven forbid. When dealing with a fire, time is of the essence. So having to figure out whether there's an actual fire or not could end up being pretty costly. And that isn't what anybody wants. I don't know what process they would be implementing to help determine whether a fire alarm has been falsely activated or not. I also feel that there are, in my opinion, more effective solutions to the active shooter issue. But because of ongoing gun control nonsense, these avenues won't even be explored. And it's a shame, really. It shows how these political representatives will propose and pursue policies that strengthen their political career, as opposed to proposing and pursuing policies that their constituents would actually benefit from. But overall, this was some good news. I told you guys there was some good news. Well, that's all I got for today, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for all of your support. Please continue to help the channel grow by giving the video a thumbs up. I truly would appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so right here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that notification bell too, so that you're alerted to when I upload these episodes. I will be trying to nail this down so that I can release the episodes at a specific time daily. But in the meantime, use the notification system. Do the same over on Rumble if that's the platform that tickles your fancy. I'm also on TikTok, so you can catch me over there if that's your preferred platform of choice. Honestly, I can't wait for TikTok to allow lengthier videos. The community over on TikTok has been very supportive as well, and I thank and appreciate all of you. All right? I'm also on 10 and Shitstagram. You heard me right, Shitstagram and X. You can also catch me over there. We can vibe and shoot the shit on those platforms. Thank you so much, everybody. Pretty good, pretty neat. Later.